Hey, y'all. We're here today with Arnoldo Hurtado. I am Gabe Gonzalez with Northside Community, and we're here to talk about self-care today, self-advocacy, and what's it like to take care of yourself in Fort Worth, Texas, and around the world in Berlin for Arnoldo Hurtado. Let's start off with a few questions. First off, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I mean, it's a really cold day today, so
It's
I'm glad I brought
chilly.
my big old puffy jacket.
Yeah,
from
two
Europe.
coats on today.
Yeah,
It's a two-coat kind of day.
layers,
sure.
layers.
And we have to take care of ourselves. We have to keep warm.
Mm-hmm.
We do. So, in this climate of today's world, the hustle and bustle, hustle culture, how do you take care of yourself? What do you do
Ooh,
to
you're
make?
going deep real fast.
I think so. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I like it.
What do you do to take care of yourself on the daily and kind of like in retrospect, like, how do you plan out your traveling and things like that?
Yeah, so taking care of oneself. I think that's a whole topic, and so if you'll bear with me,
Sure.
I have a lot to say about that.
Please do.
So self-care, I realized, for example, to me, self-care became a topic and a very big, important thing I wanted to focus on when something happened to me. And we all have that in our lives when something happens to you and you realize, oh, wow, I really need to watch out for myself, take care of myself, take care of my body, my mental health. And not to dig into the exact thing that happened, but rather the wake-up call. Health. For me, health became a very big priority. And when health becomes your priority, at least in my case, you see the world through a different lens. It's like you just put on some shades that say, okay, avoid this, avoid this, avoid this, focus on this, right? It just
True.
becomes clear as day. And one of the things that became clear to me here in Fort Worth, because I was hustling, I was doing the most,
Yeah.
right? I was participating in pop-ups all over North Texas, Dallas, Arlington, Fort Worth,
Wow.
with my truck, driving everywhere,
Right.
doing just a lot of free work too, for exposure, that curse word, and just really spreading myself thin. What I had going for me was my youth, so that I could do a lot of that. But that still doesn't make it okay,
Right.
right? Just because you're young and have the energy doesn't mean that you should be spreading yourself thin and not taking care of yourself.
That's very true.
And I found out real quick. And so my mental health started really deteriorating, especially when you realize that maybe you're being played, that you're being used for a bigger context that's not about you, not
That
about
you're
not about your fulfillment,
That you're not passionate
not
about.
to help you. You know, maybe a lot of co-opting was happening. That's a whole other topic. But it started to get to me. And then when your mental health suffers, your whole body suffers. It's just all tied in together,
Yeah.
and your spirit, just everything. And I decided I needed to go. I needed to remove myself from this context to get that clarity, to get just a fresh slate and see, how am I out of this context? Where is Arnoldo? Where's his body? Where's his mind? Where am I? And so I did that, and I decided to just travel. Luckily enough, I had been a teacher before, so I had summers off, really long summers, and had been
Right.
exploring during those 2 to 3 months I had been traveling. And so I got a good taste of the world out there. And I decided to go out back in there for a longer period of time.
Right.
So I just up and went.
I love that.
One of the things that I really appreciated about being in Spain, that's where I landed in Spain, was universal health care. Girl,
Sounds fabulous.
have you noticed how in the US, media and any big entity completely avoids the topic of universal health care?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we went through a pandemic during the time that I
And
left.
it wasn't even talked about.
It was not talked about. How are you going to be having a world pandemic and not talk about health care? And that's my question to you.
That's a good question I'm going to have to think about. Because, I mean, it's just all the way the media plays us, is diverting our attention to little things that don't matter to keep us unaware of the change that could happen, the change that needs to happen. And I think people are kind of focusing now on what we do need. And I think there's a shift that's going on right now. For me personally, especially what I'm focusing on around the world, what's going on. Especially moving with Move Texas and being aware of what the legislation is doing this session as a state. There's a whole lot going on, but that is something else to talk about,
Right.
for sure.
So if you don't mind me going back to
Yeah,
talking
absolutely.
about the healthcare, because I think it's such an important topic.
Yeah. So how was it in Spain with that universal healthcare?
It was amazing. It was amazing, just knowing that you have coverage, and not because the way it works here in the U.S. is that you get healthcare, some sort of plan, when you're a salaried employee for an institution, whether it be I was a teacher, so I had healthcare and dental healthcare, but I was a salaried employee, right? If you're outside of that, you're on your own.
Oh yeah.
You're on your own. And it's not like that in Europe. In most parts of Europe and Spain, you could be unemployed and you have universal health care.
Wow.
Literally. That's the way it works. And that's what they call socialism, like that bad word that we use here in the U.S., socialist. Well, if they're taking care of their people, then I want me some of that socialism. We could use a little more of that here.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? But because it's a capitalist system, they don't want you to talk about that. So they won't even open that conversation because they know you're going to find out that things are better in other parts. And they are.
Oh, they absolutely are.
They are, which is why I've been away from.
You always come back glowing.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you. That's a lot of self-care.
I love that.
So it's not just having health care. It's also the day-to-day, right? It's
Let's
being
talk about
able
that.
to walk.
Walkable spaces. Wow.
I never realized how important walking was until I was forced to walk in Europe, where the streets are made for walking. And everyone walks. And so you're just, okay, I guess I'm going to walk.
Yeah.
My legs were so atrophied from being born and raised in Texas, where I had to this point, I'm still trying to work on my legs because I never walked.
Yeah.
We don't walk here. The cities are not made for walking. They're made for oil consumption and cars.
Yeah. I feel like the only places in Texas where you walk a lot are college campuses. And at Texas State, my calves had to be trained to walk up those hills.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like that kind of getting used to walking.
So imagine that all day, every day.
Wow.
What the effect it has on your body and on your overall health. You're like burning calories all day. And in places like Spain, where life is on the street, it literally pulls you. Spain is like, no, you're not staying inside. You're out in the street. You're going to walk. Why? Because it's sunny. It's beautiful. The buildings are beautiful. We have everything that you want to look at aesthetically. People gather in public spaces. So there's public spaces. You know how we talked about placekeeping?
Right.
There's placekeeping happening. And it's thought about at the design level of the city, urban planning. It's not an afterthought like here. It's actually, we're going to create spaces for people from the get-go. Cities, entire cities for people.
And I want to take that thought right there and stop you right there, because the word afterthought, it made me think of another part of the topics we were talking about yesterday. When it comes to self-care and taking care of yourself, you don't want to be your own afterthought. You definitely don't want to be an afterthought in creative processes when it comes to being an artist. So I just kind of want to jump into that moment of being an artist and self-advocating for yourself and not being an afterthought. You take care of yourself. You take that time to really relax, walk everywhere. Where can you apply what you learned to take care of yourself as an artist for self-advocacy?
That's a great question. I think, let's talk about Fort Worth since we're here. I think Fort Worth, it struggles a lot with artists. That's my view. Okay. I'm sure there's other artists that you'll meet that say, oh, it's wonderful. Good for them. Like, I'm so happy for you. But my experience has been that artists, for example, you really have to almost beg to get paid. It's like why do I have to explain that you have to pay people?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that. Um, and so that's been a struggle where people want you to do things for free.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been very difficult to navigate here in Fort Worth.
It is difficult. It's also, in my opinion, or in my experience, having to ask to be paid is a little awkward because you're like at this friend stage or you're like at this colleague stage. It's like, okay, try not to step on any toes, but also I need to self advocate for myself. I need to ask, you know, I'm using my time for your event or whatever it is. Can I get paid? And I think that was the biggest step for me last year in self advocacy and like learning how to just find my self worth and know my self worth.
And walk away.
Yeah.
Learning to walk away when you see that people don't value you in this system. This system is about money. And I had to really remember that. You know, I'm not a person who's all about money, but I have to remember where I am. And if I want to exist in Fort Worth, in the US, it is expensive. It is expensive to exist here. So I cannot do the work that I need to do and take care of myself if I don't have the basic necessities in this system, in this context. And that requires capital, unfortunately. But it is the reality. So you ask for it and you say, look, I need to get paid. And if you don't have a budget for that, then I'm going to walk away. Thank you very much. Let me know when you have a budget. And then please contact me when you do. That's the correct way. So come correct. You know?
Absolutely.
Come correct. Have a budget ready. So for those of you who don't know how to approach freelancers, it's not just artists. A freelancer, you say, I have a budget and I would like to hire you. Are you interested? And then the conversation can start there. But always have a budget ready. And I think that's important. We had that dynamic with each other, right?
Absolutely.
Like, where we had a period where we were learning like what are our qualities and skills. So there is a period perhaps, but it's important to talk about it.
For sure.
And say,
keep
okay,
that
like
communication open.
yeah, and then say, okay, I see that you're a skilled person in this and this and this. And then maybe that took a couple of months. And then I came at you and said, look, I see your worth and I would like to pay you. And then we started that negotiation.
Absolutely.
Is that how it went for you? I mean, how do you interpret our dynamic?
Our dynamic, I think I had a lot to learn, and I did do that. I did a lot of project management education on my own so that I could be like, okay, this is what I'm learning. This is what I have. I want to do more for Northside community. And then we started talking, about those budgets. So I think we both came at it at a very honest, like, this is a small business where we're just starting. We have to work for free at some point, and then get to that moment where we both have money on the table,
Yeah. And I think that's what we're doing together now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where we're pulling our skills together and we're showing what we can do. Right. And at this point, I feel like we've demonstrated, for example, you've demonstrated event planning, cultural programming in the North Side, which we talked about. There's a big void of cultural programming in the North Side. And it's systemic, right? Well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
How other neighborhoods, they just have cultural program, they have resources, they have budgets for that. And in the North Side, we haven't had that. And so Northside Community LLC is trying to fill that void. And we started doing cultural programming where it's not just pop-up markets, because there's other wonderful efforts out there. I can think of like Cultura markets. They're pretty recent too. And they started doing pop-up markets, and they have a really high caliber of artisans and vendors. And I think they do it at Casa Azul, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe some other parts of the city. But they were the only ones who came into the scene and started adding to that.
Yeah.
But those are more pop-up, I think.
Yeah.
And I think what you were doing involved a lot of culture, talent. For example, singers, musicians, Katrinas. So it incorporated a little more.
We wanted to make it visually dynamic. We wanted to make it culturally enriched, and for small businesses to visit with each other and to open spaces for other small businesses.
Right.
For foot traffic.
So with more intention of activating and bringing
space.
attention to those small businesses, right?
For sure.
Where we organize those events. So yeah, advocating for yourself, and this is where Northside Community LLC is trying to advocate for the Northside, right? It's not just for us. It's literally, we are from the Northside, so we know the history. We know that there's been a void of resources, of cultural programming, and we focus on that because we're artists.
Right.
So that's why through the lens of artists, like where is the arts and culture in a district that is very rich culturally, but is under-resourced. And we're trying to bridge that gap. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think we are doing such a great job with the magazine, bringing that opportunity for small businesses for advertisement, and the very first published Northside magazine. Our website is fantastic. I'm just bragging on us right now.
Yeah. But that's like, that is self-advocacy and
Right.
self-promotion when nobody else is going to promote you. You have to do it
Oh,
yourself.
we've talked about that.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
not doing it for us. No one's going to do the work for
You have to
you.
do it for yourself,
You
and you
have
have
to
to
do
be
it for
unapologetic about
yourself.
it.
Yes,
Own
unapologetic.
it.
Yes. And that might throw people off, right? They might be like, "Oh, like you're really secure about yourself." Like I have to be. Nobody else is going to do it for me. You know, I don't have an agent. I have to be my own agent, my own
Right.
talent, my own website, my own magazine. You know, like all of it.
Everything.
So because no one's doing it for us. We have to do it. And that's where you invite people to be part of your movement
Right.
because it is a movement. And if they want to collaborate, then let's have a party. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if I answered your question about self-advocacy, self-care.
You definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what I want to touch on next is probably
How do you take care of yourself?
it's a good question.
Because you asked me, and I'm curious to know how do you take care of
Yeah.
yourself.
I spend a lot of time with my family. I do. I like just hanging out with them, quoting movies all day. But I like to take care of things as well. I like to make sure that things are taken care of. So that way my environment is clean, my dog is happy, my partner's happy, you know. Like today, I think the biggest thing that made me feel balanced about today and doing all these activities for today is doing my mom's dishes. Like that was the number one thing for me. I was like, that's a clutter, I have to fix it. And it just made me feel good about myself and just feel helpful. So it's mostly action based for me. Literally looking in the mirror and being like, you're awesome. That helps me a lot. But yeah, I don't really know. I need to work on it.
So
I think
like
it's a work in
that
progress
is
right now.
yeah, that's a good example. But do you have something that, for example, maybe art you mentioned, maybe art is like a therapy for you
Oh,
and
for
that's
sure.
that's part of your healing and self-care process?
Absolutely. It takes a lot of time to get into that creative mode for me. So it takes like a whole day. I have to dedicate a whole day to getting out all my tools. I just bought a giant easel, getting that out, and really focusing on my what entry in my diary that I want to paint because I journal all day. I think that's my biggest thing as well as journaling. Feelings, my paranoias, my thoughts, everything down. And then whenever I'm just stuck on a thought, I can go back to it. I literally date it, write out the feeling I have and then kind of work on that and just let it out with color and some paint expression.
Right.
So that's how I let it all out. And then just staying busy for me right now is important.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, I think of my mom when you say busy, my mother, her like her escape for everything is work, which I'm not sure that that's very like healthy to to dive into work for like escapism. But I can't say because I don't do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't do it because I have an aversion to the idea that work is healing. I can see a world where maybe it is if it's intentional and if it actually works. But I think that there are some people who do it out of just, habit. It's not just necessity. There's necessity, but then people really cross the line of necessity. And it's just
Constantly moving.
like an addiction to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is a place that I only know how to function really in this space. Do you think that's a problem? Do you see it?
I think it is a problem. What I hear a lot lately is don't stop moving. You know, when you're getting older, don't stop moving, which is important to your joints. You know, your mental health maybe, to not stop learning, not stop moving. But there is a point in time where I'm like, man, I need a rest. I need to literally lay down for like 30 minutes and rest. So I think it's a little bit of both. You know, I think you can get too much in your head about working. And I mean, that's why people call them workaholics.
The U.S. is infamous for that.
Oh, yeah.
By the way.
I bet.
Like being abroad, people
Chill.
are so chill. It's a different vibe. I mean, let's talk about Spain. The siestas. They invented siestas.
Napping.
Napping, girl. They're like, it's a countrywide activity.
It's a nap country.
It's a nap country. And, people don't necessarily nap, but there are hours in the day in the middle of, it's like the afternoon, basically, when the heat of the summer is really the most intense. Those are the siesta hours. And people take shelter, or they go to a coffee shop and socialize with their friends. They take the shots of espresso to keep them awake. And then they just hang out. So it's not just napping. It's literally just visiting, catching up with friends, slowing down. It's slow the heck down.
Slowing down. Those are the important words.
And so that's what the world has taught me. It's not just Spain. It's like the world is very chill outside of the U.S. Yes, people work hard. They work really hard. But when they chill hard too. And I think I don't see that here. I see here people are like, go, 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 go,
Yeah.
go, go.
I've been having to tell myself, like, you work hard, you need to play hard too. And my dad always told me that. And I'm like, what am I going to do to have fun right now? I don't have that in my schedule. I need to make time for that.
But you know what fun sounds like for me? For me, fun is like a bath. That's fun for me. Because it feels good. It's like doing nothing and just being in hot water with bubbles. And sometimes I'll watch a movie or a series from in the bathtub. And sometimes I will just chill. And it's so healing. And that is fun. But I'm also like, I'm 36. But you know what? It's not even an age thing, because I was doing that when I was a teenager. I was a teenager and I would get a glass of wine from my parents' bar. My parents have a little bar, and I would get some wine. I don't know where. I probably saw it in a movie. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna do that.
Wine and bubbles.
And I would get in the tub and just like drink wine and just talk to myself. I was like, you're wonderful. I'm living a fabulous life.
You set yourself up for a good future. That's a good foundation.
I did. I was mentally preparing myself for a fabulous life. And I can say I do have a fabulous life now. But I was young when I decided. I decided I was going to have that life. And I was in Northside. My parents were working hard, Spanish speaking, immigrants. So we don't come from money. But I decided, like, even without money, I can have a fabulous life. Look at this, a bath.
You have really inspired me to tell myself that I'm going to have a fabulous life. I am not going to work for another corporation. I'm going to work for the companies that I'm passionate about, for myself, and I'm going to have a fantastic 2025.
Beautiful.
Putting it out there.
Beautiful. And not just 2025. It's 2025 and the rest of your life.
The rest of my life. Thank you.
Take care of yourself. And our lives are very short already, I believe. I'm very, conscious of that. And that's why I don't have time for BS in my life. I don't have time for haters. I don't have time for people who don't pay. I don't have time for developers who are trying to, sit with me and ask me for my consultation and not pay me. That type of stuff. I don't have time for none of that.
What do we have time for today?
Come correct.
We have time for a couple more guests today. We're going to have a long day of podcasting today.
Yes.
So I hope that you guys stay tuned for more videos. Stay tuned for me hosting some more videos and Arnoldo to host some more videos. We love being here. We love talking to y'all. So yeah, come back.
Yeah, and I think I just want to say a couple of things. So we'll be interviewing in Spanish. And then we're going to have some guests who are going to talk about world travel. I think it's important that not to make it all about Fort Worth. We are in Fort Worth, but we live in a global world now. So I think it's important for people and young people especially to know that there are options out there for you. Don't feel like you're stuck in Fort Worth and that Fort Worth is everything, because it's not. The world is huge. There are better places in the world. There are more queer spaces and queer-friendly spaces in the world. So if this serves as anything like a queer underground railroad somewhere, contact me, hit me up. I can tell you where to get universal health care if you need that. And yeah, it's a big move, but guess what? The rewards are way bigger in other parts. So don't feel stuck in Fort Worth. If you feel stuck, the world is big. And I'm going to have a conversation about that with Choke. Some of you may know who Choke is, and if you don't, you're going to meet her. And we're going to shed some light on what the world has to offer. And it's a beautiful world out there, let me tell you. It's beautiful.
I'm super excited, Arnoldo.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. All right, awesome.
And we'll end there.
Yeah.